I'm Mary Starr. This is Awake to Truth podcast. We're very excited today to have back with us again Victor Avila. Some of you may have seen him when he was on with us a while back. He has been an amazing patriot. He has had an incredible service career. And Victor, first, I want to say thank you for your service to America because you have made it a better place and a safer place.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're amazing. So you've had a very interesting career. You've been an ICE agent. You have served in foreign countries. You've worked in the embassies. I'm going to let you just tell your story because you know yourself better than anyone. I want our audience to hear from your heart about you. So go for it.
Well, thank you so much, Mary. I'm a retired supervisory special agent with ICE, Homeland Security Investigations. Prior to that, I worked for the United States courts as a federal probation officer and learned the court systems and the assistant U.S. attorneys and the U.S. court system, which really helped me as an agent to understand the second part of the criminal justice system. I also worked at the state level for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Texas as a parole officer before that. But when my career as an agent started in El Paso, Texas, I'm born and raised there. I understand the border, not only because I've lived there most of my life, but I've worked there most of my life. And my career then led me as an agent to serve on the other side of the border, initially on the other side in Ciudad Juarez, the other side of El Paso, Texas, which is a very, very dangerous city, and really got to expand my career and seeing the foreign policy attached to it, the liaison with other governments, how important that is to, especially the connection with Mexico that we have. But nevertheless, dealt, firsthand with the cartels and their violence. A lot of people tell me, have you ever seen the movie Sicario? And I said, yes, I have, the first one. And they always ask me, is it true that everything that they put on there? I go, yeah, it's one of the few movies out there that are very realistic. Whoever they had advising them for that movie was a very good advisor because I lived that. I lived that movie in real life.
Yes, you did.
Saw the bodies hanging from the bridges in Mexico. I saw the mass graves being dug up with bodies. I dealt with a lot of that was happening on a daily basis over there. And then eventually my permanent assignment to Mexico City, where I was overseeing the Global Trafficking in Persons Initiative. I'm a subject matter expert in human trafficking investigations and victim identification. So we were doing a lot of stuff, money laundering, cartels, human smuggling, but I really focused a lot on human trafficking and taking down human trafficking organizations that were specifically bringing victims, usually women and children, from Mexico into the United States and sexually exploiting them in the sex slave trade in New York, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, Miami. And I was very successful in arranging operations with the government of Mexico and liaison with them to capture these people and rescue these victims and these children. Human smuggling as well, special interest aliens, Chinese nationals, a lot of stuff that had been happening that now we've seen it exposed under this administration of who is being allowed to come in the country. Back then, we were enforcing it and keeping them from coming in. And it was very difficult to see these last 4 years, how willingly it was just wide open. So I also worked in a lot of Central America, in the Guatemala, Honduras, Panama area, worked a lot there. Then, of course, I went through a horrific event when I was in Mexico City. My partner, Special Agent Jaime Zapata, and I were ambushed on the way back, driving on highway from Monterrey region back to Mexico City. We were ambushed by 2 SUVs full of Zeta cartel members. And
you read my mind. I was just about to bring that up because you wrote a book, Agent Under Fire, detailing that whole traumatic event.
It really details my life and a little bit about my career, but it really goes into my assignment in Mexico and this tragedy. But this tragedy kind of goes beyond of what we're experiencing with the cartels. They're unlimited violence. They don't care. They're not afraid of U.S. law enforcement anymore. They're not afraid of Mexican law enforcement or politicians. They are fearless. And that fearlessness has really caused us a lot of issues in our country with the fentanyl that they bring in, and the trafficking of humans and smuggling and many other things that they're involved in. Well, I escaped with my life by the grace of God after being shot 3 times. My partner paid the ultimate sacrifice and was killed in the line of duty. And so that does something to you. It not only battle tested me, but it really gives you a perspective of how to see life after that, and really gives you what to focus on, not to sweat the small stuff, but to really concentrate on what really matters. And one of the things that matters in my life, other than God and my family, is the protection of our country. That's personal to me. And this is something that I've been in public service all my life since the age of 22. I really don't know how to do anything else other than be a servant of the people and to help make our community safer. And so after the shooting, ended up in Washington, D.C., then ended up at a post in Madrid, working in Spain and Portugal, working a lot of human trafficking and drug trafficking because it exists over there as well. And then eventually ended up a retirement in Denver in 2015. But I wrote the book. I really was trying to find myself as to what to do. And kind of like you, I didn't know where I was going to end up. And I ended up kind of in this position to be a little bit of a spokesperson without knowing as to what's going on at the border, because I keep up to date on what's happening on the border on a daily basis with my contacts and my sources. They still tell me what's going on. And I have been visiting the border the last 3 years continuously to see what is going on down there. And I kind of became an advocate to bring more human trafficking awareness, an advocate to protect our sovereignty, got involved in politics, got involved in trying to make a difference one way or another. I didn't know where. I do a lot of media interviews with media outlets, whether it's TV, Fox News, radio, and other podcasts. That's one way to get the word out. But I also was going around the country speaking, working with nonprofit groups like Border 911 that we'll talk about, and try to do my part, because I just could not bear or stand just to be in my couch at home and do nothing when all of this destruction is happening to our country. Now we find ourselves here with a smile on our face because, we helped do it. We helped do what we're at right now and elect President Donald Trump back to get an opportunity to fix this. And I've been on the phone with a lot of people in the last week or so that are eager and ready to make a difference, to help, because President Trump can't do it by himself. That's why he's surrounding himself with these incredible patriots to help him get this done. And of course, one of the biggest probably mandates out there is border security and illegal immigration. And here we are. We know that it's going to happen. We know the economy is going to improve. We know all of these issues that we've been fighting for in the last 3.5, almost 4 years, that now we actually get to actually do it. And the best thing about this, Mary, is that it's going to benefit the entire country. It's not going to benefit a certain party or a certain... No, this is for the betterment of everyone.
That's one of the things that I believe we talked about in our prior interview. This is not a red or a blue issue. These issues are red, white, and blue because it affects every American. When you pick up the phone and call 911, they do not ask you, what is your party affiliation? What do they ask you? What is your emergency and what is your address? They don't care how you voted or if you voted. So people...
And I know President Trump is going to approach it that way because the policies that he's going to institute, and maybe some will be legislatively passed, are going to benefit all of us. The economy and small businesses, everyone's going to benefit. Public safety, that's my major concern. It's always been all my life. We want our communities, like you said before, it's not just the border communities, the border states, it's every state. And so many cities and small towns around our country that have been highly affected by crime, but not just the regular crime that we have already and the surge in the U.S., but by crime from individuals that are illegally present in our country. And that's just 100%. I can't tolerate that. And I know that we're going to be able to finally address it and help clean it up, which is what we need to do.
Absolutely. It warms my heart when I see the grassroots effort that it took to pull off what was done. And I give God the glory because this was truly a move of God that was orchestrated throughout this entire country.
That's right. What a great feeling that is, right? When you see this map that they keep on putting up, the red map, and even in the blue states like California, for example, there's a lot of red in there. There's a lot of people, even in these what you would call blue states, that are fed up. They're fed up with the fentanyl killing our youth. They're fed up with the trafficking. They're fed up with all the crime associated with illegal immigration, or it's because there's a lot of crime that's associated with the local gang members because they work with the cartels. There's this ripple effect, right? That we want to be able to break it apart and make that ripple effect a positive one. And the people have spoken. And I hope that some of these states that are going to want to fight, because they've already said that they're going to fight and they're not going to allow President Trump and his agenda to come into their states. I think they're mistaken, because how can you be opposed to helping your community by getting rid of bad people? No one should be opposed to that. That's a nonpartisan issue. But for some reason, they want to protect people that are here illegally, especially the criminal illegal aliens. I don't know how you can protect them, but they're on the wrong side of the law. Like my friend Tom Holman said, it doesn't matter what they say. We're gonna go in there. We're not gonna ask for your permission, and we're gonna help the people.
I have been so relieved since that border czar announcement was made. It made my whole day. I have not quit smiling since, and every day it just keeps getting better.
It was
so many qualities.
Pleasant surprise. Not actually much of a surprise. We knew that Tom Homan was going to have a role in this administration, and when it was announced that he's going to be the border czar, let me tell you, you've never seen a border czar like this ever before. This is not just going to be an advisory role. This is going to be a person that's going to be on the ground, working directly with the other heads of the agencies, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the CBP Commissioner, the Chief of the Border Patrol, the Director of ICE, and others, to come together as a team to work all these angles when it comes to the border. Because one thing is illegal immigration. The other thing is dealing with the actual border security on the border with both Border Patrol and CBP customs at our ports of entry. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. The interior enforcement when we come to the actual deportations, the foreign policy with dealing with Mexico, and policies that are going to be reinstated, like Remain in Mexico and others, and not just Mexico, but other countries. It's a big, cumbersome task, but there's no one better than Tom Homan to be the lead for this.
He has a tremendous list of good qualities. My favorite quality about Tom is he says what he means, and he means what he says. He takes care of business, and I greatly respect and admire him for that.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, he's been a great friend. And you're absolutely 100% right. What he says is what he's going to do, and you better believe it. And you know, the media out there was kind of I think it was on The View or something, saying that you better believe them because they said that they were going to do this, that they were going to do that they're going to deportation. And I'm listening to them and saying, yes, this is true. We did tell you. We're telling you. And we are going to do it. There's no secret here. The people have demanded and have spoken that they want this done. For some reason now they're in kind of disbelief that, first of all, the people have given us the authority to do it because they asked for it and voting for President Trump. That's the biggest. Second is that they don't really care what the media says. They want what they've seen in their neighborhood, in their grocery store, at their gas station, at their kid's school, and they don't like it, and they want it changed.
That is exactly right, and it is indicative of how totally out of touch mainstream media is with the average American. The day after the election, I was in a local hardware store, and I was talking with this guy. I had on a Trump hat, and he said, "I like your hat." I said, "Thank you. I had a funny feeling you were going to say that." And then we started talking, and I said, you know, it amazes me how completely out of touch mainstream media is with America. And he said, "You're absolutely right. They don't get it, and they cannot relate to the average person." But yet we see President Trump. What does he do? He's working at McDonald's. I would love to have known how many cars lined up for that drive-through window that day. That was awesome. And then I think even better than that was the garbage truck. I loved that. That was classic.
What an incredible campaign that was. But you know what it was? It was social media and the conservative social media. And let's start with X. X had a major role because the podcast that President Trump went on, huge, because he actually reached out to the audience where they actually watch and see and visit, because they don't visit CNN. They don't visit the legendary, ABC, NBC News that we used to depend on. That's not the case anymore. And it was very a pleasant strategy that they saw from the campaign, the Trump campaign, that said, you're going to go on these podcasts, you're going to go on social media. And boy, did he get his message out that way.
He did.
Aside from the rallies, obviously the rallies were incredible. And because of people that showed up to those. But it kind of gives us the sign of the times that we're in, right? Where we get our information. And the reality, I think the mainstream media right now is in shock that, what do you mean that they're not paying attention to us? What do you mean they're not watching us? Well, they're not. They're not. And they made it very clear that they're going to get their information from somewhere else.
Well, the ratings on all of these mainstream media companies, they are just continuing to drop. I am just sitting back and wondering, not really so much if, but when and which one that we're going to see Elon Musk scoop up for a very, very incredibly low price. He will do that. He will go in, he will get a bargain on some media company that is failing, and he will turn it around and turn it into a truthful media outlet and make untold billions of dollars.
I got to tell you, Mary, one of the most exciting things for me, other than the border and what Tom Homan is going to do, is this Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk duo with this efficiency, the government efficiency, I forget what they call it, but the Office of Efficiency.
Yes, DOGE.
Yes, DOG, the Department of Government Efficiency. Let me tell you, I worked for the government for 20 years and would see a lot of times the fleecing of America, right? And couldn't understand why the federal government was spending this much money on something that I knew that if I would do on my own as a private citizen would be a lot cheaper. I can't wait for some of these agencies are going to go away. Some of these departments are going to go away, and the savings that are going to start occurring. And I think for the first time, we're going to see that deficit actually be attacked, be addressed, and really cut down and cut that fat off of the government, because not just, the Biden administration blew up and the government at one point it becomes unrecognizable because it's so big that I think we have to go back to fundamentals here. And we need a small, efficient, lean, mean working machine as a government that represents us. Because remember, it's we, the people, that they're supposed to be answering to, right?
Right.
And so I think this is the first step to getting back to that.
Right. Couldn't agree with you more. I love the fact that we all see President Trump bringing in successful business people that have an eye for things like you're talking about that will affect our bottom line as a nation. You cannot continue to spend into oblivion. I follow, of course, Elon Musk on X, and he repeatedly has said, this is unsustainable. You cannot continue to operate this way. I think he speaks with the greatest authority of anyone on planet Earth about that. He knows business. He sees it and he says it.
That's right. And I mean, I always compared it when I ran for Congress. I would always tell people, talking about the economy and spending, it's not sustainable because it wouldn't be sustainable in your own home. Think about how much money you earn a month and your budget. I would make an exaggeration. Like, imagine if you're spending 50 times more of what you earn a month. At one point, you'll end up losing your house. You'll end up losing your car. There's going to be real consequences to you overspending. I think that the consequence of the government, because we're supposed to be kind of monitoring ourselves there, is finally gonna be addressed. And I think the American people are very excited about that. I think the economy is going to strengthen. The housing market is going to be, again, the positive ripple effect that I'm talking about, that people are going to, once you get people money back in their pockets, they like that. And more businesses will hire more people, unemployment rates, get people out of the unemployment, get them back to look for work instead of depending on the government check that are not even in the workforce. That's a number out there that there's a lot of people out there that should be working that are not, because they've been dependent on these government welfare programs that I think also should be looked at as well.
Yeah, people want to work. They don't want to just take money from the government for no reason. They want to work. We need jobs brought back to America, and President Trump is doing that. That's one of the policies that I think is so wise. And we talked a little bit before we started recording about his policies. That one is one of my top three, maybe the number one. What about you?
Well, the economy for sure, but I'm thinking tariffs. When you mention it, I'm thinking the word tariffs comes to mind because I know that that's going to be one that he's going to use to negotiate with Mexico. And I think it actually will be more than just tariffs. I think Mexico, the president of Mexico wouldn't even call him to congratulate him, the new president of Mexico. They're going to fight us. But what I don't understand is that we join forces and both countries would benefit from getting rid of the cartels. They want security in Mexico as well. They're tired of being terrorized by these cartels and the corruption that exists there. I think it benefits both of us, but I hope they see it that way. I hope that President Trump will be able to, I know he will be able to, not just with tariffs, but with other measures to get Mexico on board, because whether we like it or not, they're not going anywhere. They're attached at our hip. And there's a lot of trade here. That's another way we look at it. There's a lot of trade and money that crosses that border on a daily basis. We need to come to those agreements to benefit both countries. And so tariffs, I know China and other countries, penalties. I don't know how far they'll go with sanctions or something like that, but I think that President Trump is finally going to use that power of the purse. He's used it before and it's gotten their attention. But I think this one's going to be a huge impact, not only with other countries, but with these sanctuary cities that don't want to participate. Well, then maybe he's going to cut the funding of the federal government to that state because you don't want to help us with securing your state. It's going to be very interesting to watch and hope to be part of it, to be part of the team, to bring these solutions to fruition.
I think that these sanctuary cities are starting to rethink their decisions and choices. And if you doubt that, you ask Denver and you ask Aurora, Colorado, what they think about Trinidad Agua.
That's right. Oh, my goodness. That one's at the top of the list. I talked to Tom about this when they were taking over these apartment complexes. Tom and I were like, we would go over there and take them out in one day and a big operation. And how can we tolerate things that these organizations, by the way, it's a sophisticated organization. This is just not a group of kids and gangs that they call themselves Trinidad. These guys are connected and well connected to Venezuela and other possible criminal and terrorist organizations. How can we tolerate them extorting our people and terrorizing them in their own house, in their own apartment where they live in Dallas, Texas, and San Antonio, Aurora, Chicago? It's happened in a lot of cities. Tom and I give us a shot, right? We give us a shot and we'll fix this. We fix this because we know how to do this. We go out there and do the enforcement. And that's sometimes all you need is the will and the want to do these. And you get experts that know how to do this. And people are, believe me, are on standby wanting to do this and say, enough of this. We've had enough. We're going to go in there with what we have. Sometimes I get a little pushback that we don't have all the personnel. We don't have that many. Well, we have enough to start. Yes, we always wish to have more personnel, more Border Patrol agents, of course. But believe me, we have enough to start making a difference immediately.
The sanctuary cities all started over the concept of, we want to help you because you are coming here seeking a better life. And there's truth to that. And I don't deny that. But Trinidad Agua has pushed that completely out the window. It's like, no, we're not here for a better life. We're here to take control and do whatever we want in your communities. And no, we're not here for a better life. We're here to take yours.
And that's the biggest shift here in the last several years, the different types of migration that we've seen, where it used to be mostly an economic migrant, right? I'm just coming to work for the better of my family. Well, now it seems like a big chunk of these illegals are people that are coming here to take advantage of us or to possibly even hurt us with an agenda that, that I was here obviously on some kind of orders, but they don't care about whether they get a cell phone or a hotel. That's not their priority. They're here to cause damage and to fundamentally change the fabric of some of our neighborhoods. Literally, that's going to change. I think there's going to be this shock and awe of, listen, I think they're getting it now. I've heard that even in New York, some of them are getting bused and want to get up to Canada and want to leave now before we get to them. And,
I've heard that.
I don't know how much they're going to be able to take the weather up there in the harsh winters, but nevertheless, I don't know if Canada will tolerate it. And so it gets to the point where people are going to become and get on the same page and say, listen, there's a right way to come to this country. By the way, Tom and I say this all the time. We want people to come to this country. We want immigration to continue. We just want it for it to be done legally.
Well, let's face it, unless you are a native-born American, we're all immigrants of some kind. We all came from somewhere else, unless we were a Native American Indian. So we all came here, but we came the right way.
Yeah, and that's part of the American dream. My parents did it; they came here legally, and I'm the product of the American dream. I want the same thing for my children, and there's nothing wrong with that. Where you want to better yourself economically, education-wise, and all that, and we've done that, and even in my own family, and that's a good thing. We want that. I want that for the people. It's just that you cannot start by doing it the illegal way, and I think there'll be an opportunity. I think this immigration reform, that I actually don't like that term because it's been used for so many years to trick even the Hispanic community back in the Obama days. Immigration reform, and we're going to reform immigration. Well, nobody's actually reformed anything. But now we have the ability, because when you take care of illegal immigration and fix that, then now you have the opportunity to actually fix the broken system on the legal side, especially because we have people that we want in this country that have a special skill, that are not going to be a public charge, that actually have done everything that the federal government has asked them to do, and they're waiting 10 or 14 years to get in. That's not right either. We need to help them and get them in here the right way. And I think now, after all this, we'll see hopefully some different programs, some different changes where people, you'll have to go back first, but then you'll have the ability, depending on what you have or have not done, to come back the right way.
Right. And that's a great approach. That's the way to do it, and to do it correctly.
Absolutely.
So what are some other ideas that you have on what we can do to fix some of our issues?
Even in my book, I wrote some, at the end of my book, by the way, after telling the story, you're going to get a pretty good briefing, especially now, you'll actually understand how some of these intricate details of logistics, if you will, of how the border works with the different agencies, what they do, what does CBP do versus ICE versus the other part of CBP, Border Patrol, ICE, ERO, Enforcement Removal Operations versus HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. I talk about all that, but I also talk about solutions. And one of the solutions in there is about kind of doing a surge down at the border. In this case, the surge is not only just going to be at the border, but the surge will also be in the interior enforcement. And that surge is going to be made up of Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, HSI agents, maybe even U.S. Marshals and other agencies. We get to borrow now temporary duty assignments from, let's say, Secret Service, that maybe now they might have a little bit more personnel to offer after, they don't have that many protective detailees out there. So, and some from other agencies that say, come and join us for a certain amount of time as a TDY, as a temporary duty assignment, to help us exercise and put into effect all these new policies that come into effect, one at the border, but more importantly with these task forces around the country as we go and locate and detain and detect these people to be removed.
That's great. That's what we need to do.
It's going to be it's a cumbersome task, and it's going to be methodical. And I think maybe initially there might be a little bit of a desperation. People might not know that, well, what's happening or what's going to happen. Well, some of that needs some time to develop. The border part is going to be quick, and you're going to see that like a flip of a switch. That's going to be drastic and dramatic because we haven't seen that in the last 4 years. So that part is easy. The interior enforcement is the one that, you gotta be methodical about it. You gotta be right about it. You gotta get your operational plans. You gotta do it right. We want to do it orally. We want to do it humanitarian, just like the way they did it, bringing millions of people in. Well, we're going to do it the same way, bringing the millions of people out. We will detect you. We will detain you. We will process you. And then when we process you, we'll process you back to your country of origin.
That's what we need, without doubt. This has been very, very informational and helpful. And I thank you so much for coming back on with us again today. It's been great having you as a repeat guest.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you. Thank you for having me back and allowing me to inform the American people. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more messaging. There's going to be a lot more informing. There's going to be a lot more education. And that's a good thing, because I think this administration will be very transparent in telling the American people what we're going to do. And maybe, you never know, I'll have a a role to play there and hopefully be part of it and join the team.
That would be great. I think you would be wonderful. So I thank you again for coming back on today and hope to see you around soon. And we'll also be paying close attention to the next few weeks and see what rolls out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mary.
You're welcome.